Hello, ladies and gentlemen. 2026 is upon us. The engines are running. The races are already happening, and we're kicking off our first episode for 2026 of State of the Valley with two very special guests. Today in the studio, we have Brett Deyo, the promoter of Fonda Speedway and the Short Track Super Series. And then immediately to my right, we have an also-ran, usually picking up the back of the field, our fearless leader at Lebanon Valley Speedway, Mr. Ronald Dwyer. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Well,
Hey,
Tim, I think that'll probably be just the first time this year Ron and I are called special.
Yeah, no,
I think that'll be coming out throughout the year.
And that's funny, Brett, because I do that daily.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I find you guys both very special. Well, let's dive right into it. 2026 is upon us. Brett, you've had a couple events already. You had one rain out, which was aggressive, but give us a quick update on where the Short Track Super Series is, and then we'll delve into a little bit further.
Yeah, we started out at Bridgeport, New Jersey with the Doug Hoffman Memorial Race, which was awesome. Ryan Krachin, Stuart Friesen going for the win. And then our next event had a little bit of fireworks. We went to the Bedford Fairgrounds in PA, first time ever there for our tour. And Danny Buck, Danny Creedon had a little fun on the last lap, slide jobs back and forth. And Danny Creedon won his first race in quite some time with the series. It had a little excitement at the scale afterward, but Bedford left everybody talking. And our next stop now is Lebanon Valley on May the 21st. So we had plenty to talk about going into the high banks.
And that's pretty cool. We'll get into that a little bit deeper, but pretty incredible from where you started in the very, very beginning to Lebanon Valley Speedway of all racetracks, the legendary Lebanon Valley Speedway being the 40th track that the STSS has visited.
Yeah, it's actually really cool to be track number 40 at the Valley. So much history, so much prestige in the modified ranks, and to go there as track 40, just crazy how it worked out too. Bedford was 39. We got good weather, got that checked off the list, and that's going to be a big one for us. I mean, this is my 20th year promoting. Started in 2006 at Afton, and then the series began in 2014. Our first race was Orange County in April of 2014. So we've got 13 years in now with the series, and it's been a ride for sure.
Yeah, you've definitely hit your stride. You've had your bumps, your bruises, but in the short term that we've been working together with you, I can't sing your praises enough, and we're excited about it. So I'll go to the also ran next to me, Ronald. Ron, you kicked off.
It's Ron.
It is Ron?
Yes,
all right. 2026, last weekend, we had warm-ups 2 weeks ago with rave reviews of the racetrack surface, which is a feather in your cap. And then we kicked off the season last weekend with a $4,000 to win Sportsman. And we ran the pro stocks and the street stocks and 4 cylinders and kind of eased our way into the season. How did that go?
That went great. Of course, obviously the first and foremost, starting off the season, especially after the weather we had last year and the new track surface, we're very thankful that we had a good racetrack. Warm-ups went great. We had a big car count for warm-ups. We were happy with it. Racers were happy, and they're not always the easiest to make happy. So when you get away with that, it was good. And then the race last weekend we thought was a great success. Again, great racing, and everyone seemed to be happy again. Weather was a little cold. Matter of fact, I would say it's the coldest.
It was very cold.
It was the coldest I've ever experienced, including Syracuse.
But you're up in the tower.
I was still cold.
I
was still cold, Tim.
Okay.
It was still cold. It was cold everywhere.
Right.
But it was good, and so we were very happy. We're happy with the outcome. We're excited about a lot of things this year. So we're excited about this Saturday night coming up.
We'll jump into that.
Yeah.
I know one of the things that you were hoping for starting that early in the season, which your owner, Howard Commander, had grave concerns about that. And it's Russian roulette. It is, just like Brett with Port Royal, and you don't know what you're going to get this early in the season. But, even with the cold, we got pretty lucky. But I've heard through our lovely Facebook and social media that the Caseys are coming back.
Yeah, that was exciting. I mean, they put on a great show, and we go back to the days when I was in the pits with my son Olden. We pitted right next to the Caseys, so got to know them. They were super nice people. Didn't know them prior to that, and they always are just likable guys. And so it was and great racers, and they put on a great show. I believe Jason finished first, and his father finished third, I believe.
Third,
It was great, and
I think Tommy Dean was in between.
And it kind of accomplished what we were hoping for. Not necessarily strategically them, but one of my thoughts was having this what I labeled a soft opening without the big blocks or the 358s. Is you never know if we're the only game in town. We get some of these outsiders come in, and they might say, "Geez, we like this new race surface. This isn't the old Lebanon Valley. This isn't what we remembered. It's racy. It's side by side action." And it worked out.
On the heels of us in our campers on Friday night with our, repave going on for the drifting and the Canadian team pulling in and needed to borrow your electric car so they could go out and grab something to eat.
Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, eh? Whatever it takes.
And it's funny, you talk about going to the pits. Do you remember going into the pits all the times you wrecked at Lebanon or no?
Yeah, I was usually on the hook. So, I mean, some of them I don't remember. They're a little foggy. Sometimes it was in the ambulance, so I couldn't see out. I wasn't sure where I was.
Yep.
I had to bring that up. We couldn't leave that alone today, could we?
Hot Summer Nights feature winner at Albany-Saratoga Speedway.
Blind squirrel.
And won your first night out at Lebanon Valley?
I know. I won my third time at Lebanon Valley and my third time ever in a big block.
And didn't know where to pull off, didn't know where the scales were, didn't know where Victory Lane was.
Didn't even know where to restart. I remember after.
Crazy part is it's still the case.
Still the case.
So sad, so sad.
Only I'm the one making the calls when they do it wrong. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, exactly.
When I hand out a black flag, it's pretty, I'm experienced in that field.
Yes,
so it's hard to debate it.
7-time concussed but never defeated, Mr. Ron Dwyer. All right, so let's just jump in. I'm going to start up, and again, this is unscripted, off the cuff. Super excited about this year and our partnership with Fonda Speedway and Brett Deyo. But I want you guys to take a second because I think it's worth sharing with the folks how you guys met.
Yeah, it's a story.
It's a story.
Yeah.
So I confess, I had heard of Brett, obviously. I've watched a lot of the races, but I can honestly tell you, I would not have known Brett Deyo if I had bumped into him in a grocery store. I'm not a big social media guy. I'm not a gossipy guy. I don't really, if it doesn't pertain to me or my world, I don't know what's going on outside of it. And Olden and I were, I believe it was Mr. Dirt. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It was Mr. Dirt. Olden was driving me across back into the pits out of the pits in the golf cart. And he said, "Well, that's interesting." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "You know who that is?" I said, "No clue." He goes, "It's Brett Deyo." I said, "Let me out." So I jumped out and sat and chatted with Brett, shook his hand, and chatted about. Look, my belief is always, as you know, we've been friends a long time. I don't want to be enemies with people. I want to get along. It's easier to work along, and I feel strongly in our race industry that this is a tough industry to make it, and people are scratching and clawing to survive. And it's much better for us to work all together than apart. And we chatted sitting on the wall for probably a half hour, and then I had to go back to work. And to go a little further than that, I reached out. Do you want me to go that far yet, or do you want to?
No, keep going. This is really good. I didn't hear this part. Go. Don't stop.
I reached out to him in a text and said, "Hey, got I interested in meet me for lunch, and we could round table some ideas."
The next day.
Was it the next day?
It was pretty close.
It was the next day.
It was the next day or two. Yeah.
We got together and started roundtabling some ideas, and I kept it quiet. I never mentioned it to Howard or really anybody, not even you.
Nope.
You were the first person I did tell maybe a week later because I didn't know how it would all unfold, and there were a lot of rumor mills, and I'm not a big guy on rumors, so I wanted to find out for myself, and I really enjoyed chatting with Brett, and we had a lot of common interests, and how we're going to move forward, and so we're excited about it.
And there's a lot of excitement. I remember when we first made the announcement, we had to flesh some things out. There's still some big things in the future that we're not at liberty to discuss at this point. But if you do follow, and I do follow social media, part of my job, when we announced that we were going to be working with Brett Deyo and Fonda Speedway, and we hadn't even settled on the short track Super Series race, you can kind of weed out to where the people who are passionate about this sport, who love this sport, the fans, the teams, the owners, the drivers, everyone involved that has a knife in the fight, so to speak, for lack of a better term, was nothing but complimentary and was excited to see two racetracks that have been rivals since the beginning of time, these over 50 years.
Yeah.
And back in the day, we did some Lebanon-Fonda challenges, but nothing like what we're doing this year. And Brett, kind of expand on that a little bit about what your thoughts are on racetracks, racetrack owners and promoters working together versus working against each other.
Yeah, I mean, I like Lebanon Valley, and that's why I was there when Ron saw me to begin with. I was just there. I bought my pit pass, walked across, and I was going to watch the races. And, when Fonda gets done, we have to shut down earlier because of the fair. I go to Lebanon Valley because I enjoy it. I like it there. And I knew the stuff that Ron had done with changing the track. I had heard a lot of good things. So I do have friends that race there. And of course, if racing, everybody talks. And I had heard a lot of good stuff. So it was great that I kind of got to meet. I mean, my area auto days, I edited a lot of articles that you were in, sometimes crashing, right? Sometimes winning. But but yeah, I mean, I knew of Ron Dwyer. I just didn't know him. And I mean, we're in an industry that's shrinking for sure. I mean, you're losing racetracks. You're losing, look at New Egypt. That's a premier facility sitting dark.
Yep.
So for us to be able to work together and do stuff like this and, seeing the Fonda logo on the Lebanon Valley pace truck probably has some people's heads spinning. But it's a good thing. And obviously we're going to reciprocate and we need to work together. There's no reason that we should dislike each other. We have very different bases of race cars. Some people prefer Fonda. Some people love Lebanon Valley. I do think we're going to have quite a bit of crossing this year for our challenge races, which will be very cool. But yeah, this needs to be done. I don't see any downside to it for any of us. I think working together is a positive. And for us, we go to the promoters' workshops, but sometimes you are talking to someone that's in Minnesota or, like right before we came on air today, we're talking about Saturday's weather. We're in the same market. We're in the same climate, the same weather patterns. There's just so much that we can talk to each other about because we're so close together. There's only benefit.
No, I agree. And the sentiment from the fans, as I said, the owners, anybody that's knowledgeable and really cares about what we all have a passion for doing every day is completely more supportive than anything that I've seen in quite a long time. So leading into that, let's talk about May 21st. Okay, that's Thursday night, which I think is a phenomenal date. We all agreed on that, right? The Thursday night leading in to Memorial Day weekend, which we will host the Short Track Super Series. So touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, we looked at different dates, and obviously May you're early enough in the season that we're actually the opener for the High Torque New York North region. But it's also kind of a weekend date because so many people take Friday off. They make it a long weekend. They go camping. So we're kind of the kickoff to the Memorial Day weekend. First-time events are always cool. I know I've been watching some video. I saw Brett Haas out practicing with sail panels on it, and there was some fear about the sail panels, but we've run them on big tracks before. Yep. Autodrome Granby's a huge racetrack. Orange County, we run them there, and obviously they weren't as much of an issue as people thought. I think from a fan perspective, it's going to be cool. Yep. First time ever. I mean, I remember we went to Orange County in 2014. First time ever for sail panels, and the place was buzzing. Yeah. And we're recreating that at Lebanon Valley. I think it'll be interesting to see how like the Wegner and open engines fare against the big blocks. I think some people are going to go one way, some people are going to go the other, and we'll find out after 40 laps which was the right choice.
It's a big debate.
It is a huge debate. Yeah,
I think the cool part is we're running a set of warm-ups the night before and inviting teams to stay overnight to cost the gas right now. We're blah 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 blah. But anyway, we're welcoming them to try them out. And both of you guys in working together are more than flexible. And if it turns out to be, the drivers, on both sides coming back to you guys, you're going to make the adjustments necessary to put on the best product that you possibly can for the fan enjoyment.
Absolutely. And also that night, we don't want to leave out is the Bobby Chalmers Memorial for the sportsmen.
Absolutely.
A tremendous amount of bonus money. It'll be through the field one of the highest paying sportsman races that'll be run anywhere throughout the season. So, we're really looking forward to that as well. And, Bobby did a lot with media, parts, driving. I was thrilled to be asked to be part of the Short Track Super Series schedule. So that'll be race 1 for the Madsen Overhead Doors North region for the sportsmen as well.
That's pretty awesome. And then following that up, we have the Lebanon-Fonda Challenge, which I'm really excited about. There's quite a bit of buzz around that too. So the first race of that is going to be at Fonda because Lebanon Valley closes for the Monsters and Megas for the Friday and Saturday night. So our guys will be going out, and I've heard quite a bit of good feedback going out to Fonda, which is pretty cool because Lebanon guys racing Fonda on Saturday night. Awesome. Say what? Yeah. Right? So, Ron, talk about that a little bit, about the challenge, and also either one of you share about the additional points fund and the incentive, because at the end of the day, if we don't take care of our race teams and our race drivers, which is our product, right? We're in the entertainment business, but it's solely on them.
Yeah.
Then we've got nothing to talk about.
Right.
So an additional point fund on top of that to incentivize every team in every division to be able to visit each and other's track.
Yeah, I'll touch base on, it was originally a vision, I guess you'd say, of mine. I'm saying, like, geez, we shut down. A lot of guys want to have the weekend off, but not everybody. And then when Brett and I began talking, I just said, hey, you have I know you shut down early for the fair or not. Maybe we get creative and call. And Brett had experience with, I can't remember the name of it, a challenge.
Yeah, Thunder on the Thruway.
So he had some, and he's like, through that, we started talking about it, and it just unraveled. And again, that's the good thing that takes place when you're communicating and you're not working against each other, your friend, not foe. So it was a positive thing, and I'll let Brett, talk about the points. But he's, the other thing good for me is, like, it's no secret. I was a racer. I'm not a promoter, and it's never really even been my passion. I stumbled into this helping my friend Howard Commander out. So becoming friends with Brett and being able to tap on into him as a resource with,
absolutely,
things to do, because this is his passion. And he's very good at what he does. So being able to lean on him and say, okay, here's some ideas, help me make it come to reality. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun. And then it's really been the three of us. It hasn't been Brett and I, it's been the three of us. You've helped out tremendously too. But
it's been a lot more me and Brett.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah.
You really haven't shown up to much of anything.
I try to miss as much as possible.
You got to put the laps in with the wobble wheel.
Take credit for everything, but really not do anything if I can.
And ladies and gentlemen, the world's best. Just kidding. And Brett, go ahead and expand on that.
Yeah, we're gonna have a top 10 points fund for the modifieds, 358 modified sportsmen and pro stocks. Obviously, we don't run the 358s at Fonda, only a couple specials a year. So the August 1st date will be a 358 modified date as well. So the teams from the Valley can come over. Once we get through the sponsorship part, we'll release the point funds. But we can definitely say the top 10 in those four divisions over the two events will get a point fund. Obviously, a little bit of extra money in the purses those nights as well. That we've been working on that to make sure that the payouts for the races themselves are strong, and then there's the incentive to go to both with the point fund. So, it's worked out well before with Fonda and Utica Rome have done the Thunder on the Thruway in the past, and like I told our drivers at the drivers meeting, turns out the Thruway goes east too. So we can try something different, and I mean I'm very, very, very pleasantly surprised how many people are talking about doing the other track. I think there'll be a solid chunk of your cars that are racing with us August 1st. I think it's going to go the other way. I really believe that we'll have a nice crossover, probably more than what we had with Utica and Fonda, to be honest with you, from what I'm hearing.
Yep.
And win-win for the fans.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. That's what. And this morning, before on our way, I texted Brett this morning, and Alan Krebs from Noble Gas Solutions, one of our big sponsors for Mr. Dirt, reached out to me and talked to corporate, and he's interested in contributing to that point fund. So the sponsors, the fans, the drivers, the teams, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I know. I'm already fingers and toes crossed for a nice day on August 1st.
Oh, yeah.
I really think that could be a home run. I mean, that'll be the only night all year at Fonda we run mods and 358s on the same card. It's just going to be an awesome night to see those drivers come in, and the people that are the Colby Schroeders and those type of people that rarely come over to us are already thinking about it and talking about it, and those type of. And, I was impressed at the Lebanon Mall show. The 358 interest, because they tend to be, it's more local racers with the 358s, but they want to come over, and I think it'll be a home run.
And let me go off that again. There's no script, but let me touch on that for a second.
You can't go off the script if there isn't one.
Well, thank you, Ron, and Ron is very good at
team.
hitting the wall and pointing out my mistakes. Yep,
very helpful.
Fantastic. But the future of big block modified racing. I'm curious, and I'm sure the fans would love to hear where your guys' thoughts are. Ron, I'll go to you first, because I know that there's constant conversations about it. I know Brett is trying some different things. We'll let him go second. Yeah. But just real quickly, what is your thought or feeling or
So, we've all been hearing it for 20 years, right? The big blocks are going to go. And I'm not going to say they are, because I'm not really seeing that yet. But what we are noticing, though, is a rejuvenated interest in 358s. Yeah, I think we're all seeing that, correct? Mm-hmm. I mean, we're seeing it all the way around. So I'm not saying that's phasing out the big blocks, but it wouldn't surprise me in the years to come, because the expense is just out of control with motors. And now it's become, since the COVID thing, and it's never rebounded, is I'm hearing a lot of guys with engines that aren't even ready to go yet because they can't get the parts. I don't really understand all of that. So my quick take is really, I don't have an answer, but is the same as it's been all along. I've heard the grumblings that it's going to end. I've never really quite bought into it, but if there's ever a time that you see the pendulum swinging more towards 358s, it is now. And I would say the last thing is there's nothing like the ground pounding thunder of a big block. But in all honesty, even at our big track, look at the times. You might be talking about 0.3 of a second difference.
It's close.
You can't race them against each other and be effective, but it's so close. It wouldn't surprise me to see 358s be the future.
And Brett, you've got that Wegner deal. Share with some of the fans who may not know what that's all about. Let me hear your take on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there'll always be a place for big blocks. I think they're signature with our region, so I don't think they're going to go away. When you start hearing the numbers of 70,000 for new and $25,000 for cylinder heads, yeah, that's kind of scary. Our Wagner program, I think, is probably the best deal going because it's still a full-blown, as Ron says, ground pounding modified, but it's $27,000. And, I can attest because my car has one. And we ran the entire season last year with Jack Lehner with a $27,000 engine, got second in the Fonda 200 and got $15,000 back.
Yep.
It's a good deal. Now, would I love to say our entire modified division for Short Track Super Series runs those like the NASCAR Modified Tour? I would, but you still have the feedback from people wanting their independent engine builders.
Yep.
That's something that NASCAR got into when they awarded Wegner that contract years ago.
Yep.
And another thing is you have guys like Dan Bedell and all these guys, Enders. I mean, obviously he's getting out. Morrison. You don't want to take away their business either.
No.
Do I think it would be more efficient for our series to run the Wegners across the board and say that is the engine? Yes, and maybe there's a time when he sends out the parts and we have X amount of builders that can make it. So if you still want to go to Pat Morrison,
yes,
you use these parts. And that's something that I've thought about. I think it's a great deal. The 358 deal, where it concerns me, is the cost is starting to creep a little bit. When you're starting to get into the high 30s, which, I mean, the cost of everything's going up.
Sure,
that's for sure. Except our pit passes are $5. I mean, come on. But I don't know. Where I've had a hard time at Fonda with the 358s is getting the fans to buy in. We twice last year we ran 358 events that were just terribly attended, and it wasn't because of the drivers. We still had Ronnie Johnson, Bobby Hackle, Rocky Warner.
Some big names.
We had all the guys, but I just couldn't get the fans to buy in. The only night that I had what I would call a respectable crowd was the Hondo Classic on a Saturday night.
Yep.
Super Dirt was at Weed Sport, so we gave our mods the night off, and that was okay. So, but you go to Big Diamond and Grandview, that is the headliner. And they had 51 of them at Grandview last Saturday night.
It's right.
So more people can afford them.
Yeah. I mean, I think that'll be the challenge for us, and I mean, I think it'll be the challenge for, say, Utica Rome going forward. Is people love that rumbling big block, open small block, and to get them to buy into the 358s from a fan point of view, that's probably the challenge.
Yeah. No. Back to Ron's point, the separation in the time, but again, the biggest challenge that you guys have as promoters and general managers. Is creating the new fan base. That's the thing that keeps me awake at night. And how do I get people to come for the first time? And if I could retain 10% of them to come back over and over again, I feel like you're doing a good job. So I just wanted to get your guys' input and feedback on that. And then we'll go to the end of the year, Ron, and we'll go to Brett second. But I did want to touch on the 200 coming back, the Syracuse reunion, the Lebanon Valley. We're working day and night on the facility. We're expecting a huge turnout for the 3-day event. We're also looking at getting some entertainment, some live bands the night before. We kick off the weekend. But the buzz that really took off when we announced that was the live pit stops and the allowance of radios again. Yeah,
I think that we just understand why racing has gone where it has, safety reasons, many other reasons, expense reasons. But I just think there's a craving by the fans to see the old school radios, the 200, the fuel mileage come into play, the pit stops come into play. Certainly with a 200, tire wear will come into play at Lebanon, especially when there's that much racing. We're bringing back the Race of Kings, which was part of the Lebanon, much like Fonda, it's all about the history, right? And when that got taken away, I think a lot of people, their shoulders dropped like, geez, so bring it back. So we're really excited about bringing it back. With your help and many others, we feel like it's going to be a success. Again, we're praying for good weather, obviously. But I think the 3-day event, the camping, the music, our new clubhouse. If people haven't visited our new clubhouse, it's a beautiful facility now. It's all positive, and we're really excited about it. Should be a fun time.
If we can do half as good as what Brett does every year with the Fonda 200, we'll be talking about something.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly going to be 2 really cool back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
We've got Lebanon, and then we've got Fonda the week after. And, Lebanon has the setup for an event like that. You've got the room for the camping. Much like us, we have the entertainment building where we do the bands for the 200 weekend. You guys have the clubhouse. You have the room for the pit road. I mean, I think those 2 events back to back will be really cool. And with us being able to work together, we can cross promote. Obviously, we're going to use Fonda's social media channels to say, hey, go to Lebanon this week, and we'll crisscross. And, my brain's been going about things we can do to work together. Even with maybe I was looking at possibility of Lebanon Valley 200 ticket people get a discount to come the following weekend. I mean, there's a lot we can do. I think there's a place for it. I think that the fact that there is a dirt car event that weekend is not a detriment. I feel that people are going to be even more intrigued to see who can win the big money and who has the strategy to win the 200. And, I think sometimes doing the same thing over and over is stale. And this is not going to be stale.
It's not gonna be stale.
It's not at all.
And we talked about that profusely. We went over and over and over that. But at that point in the season, you got your top 6 or you got your top 7. Yet I can come to Lebanon, win 25, 30 grand. We haven't settled on the purse yet. And then I've got 50 grand. Or what are you at, 27 now? Or at 27. Yeah. But we're spreading it throughout the field.
Absolutely.
Where these guys can start to, make some money for their travel and the time and the effort. It reminds me of the old days when we had all those long-distance races at the end of the year that people were absolutely craving for, along with the Race of Kings.
The Race of Kings, I mean, that was something as a kid I always looked forward to.
Yeah,
and I think that'll be a good addition to the weekend. And like I said, you guys have the layout there. I mean, it's the place to have a big race. And, I've looked at October. The Fonda 200 used to be in October. But lately, the September weather, temperature-wise, has been really nice. And I'd rather have the nicer weather and maybe have a couple more events to go up against and have the good weekend. And I think you're in the same boat. And the way the weather's trending, the fall has been a lot nicer than the spring.
It has.
So, I mean, I think it's perfect back-to-back weekends.
And, I mean, look how mild this winter was. We should be in great shape.
Oh, yeah.
I want to just point out, too, you talk about our facility being, as we speak, we are filling in our pond in the middle of the in the infield to create more parking, because nice problem to have, but as we've grown in car counts, we're getting tighter and tighter on pit stalls. So when we complete this, which I hope will be completed by Friday before our race, our series race on Saturday, we will be creating probably 10 new parking spots, which is a lot.
These days it's quite a bit.
Lot. So we're excited about that too.
So encouraging.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, folks. Gentlemen, I appreciate you all taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedules rounding the pond, and you
very nice that Ron came
and
up
moving your bank
golf
accounts from Delaware and the tax implications and so on and so forth.
Florida while we work up here.
Exactly.
Amazing.
It's all fun and games.
He's a vacation expert.
Yes, I am.
Along with Howard's son, Scott Commander. Scott, giving you a shout out. Well, that's the first edition of State of the Valley for 2026. To say we're excited would be an understatement. We hope you guys are excited. And stay tuned. Will be more episodes coming up following this event.